Hi everyone. So just for a short introduction, my name is Dahlia. I'm a recycling specialist at the city of Long Beach, and I'm accompanied by my coworker, Isabel.
I'm a recycling outreach intern also for the city of Long Beach.
Yes. And today, as you may have guessed, I don't know if this is a surprise to anyone, but there are actually worms in here. Has anybody heard of composting with worms? So, some people? Okay, maybe Sam can tell you a little bit about it. So today what we're going to talk about is can everyone hear me okay? Yes. So today what we're going to talk about is, so the actual name for it is vermicomposting. So we're going to talk about the process and a little bit about the science of vermicomposting. Okay. So first of all, what is vermicomposting? So vermicomposting is a process of composting with worms, and we're raising the worms in certain conditions in order for them to create something called vermicompost, which is actually the product of vermicomposting. Is it okay if I take off my mask? I'm like, we were just like walking across the campus. Okay. So yeah, vermicompost is actually the mixture that's partially decomposed with a mixture of organic waste. So what does anybody know what organic material is? So organic material is like fruits and veggies. It can be like leaves, it can be newspaper, so that's organic material. So anything that was once alive that maybe would have decomposed if it fell on the earth, or sometimes if you leave, your fruits kind of in the fridge, it decomposes for too long. So that's what organic material is. And so the vermicompost ends up being this nutrient-rich compost, basically. And worm castings are worm manure. Do you guys know what manure is? So it is worm poop. So it won't smell bad, and maybe we'll have some worm castings at the bottom, but they won't smell bad. Kind of go through this whole process where, they just kind of smell like soil. Okay, so what's in vermicompost and why do we want to compost with worms? So they're really, their nutrient content varies, but it's around 3 of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So they're higher in nitrate. I think this is maybe a more advanced class, but maybe I'll go through it a little bit faster. But like some plants like tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, they prefer nitrates. And that's why we love vermicompost so much. Although sometimes the nutrient content can vary, the good thing about vermicompost is that it creates a lot of micronutrients and fungi, and it makes nutrients in the soil more available for the plants. So even if it may seem like, sometimes it varies, it makes it more available for the plants. And also worms use bacteria in their gut to process food. And also worms produce a mucus that helps the soil particles hold it together. So if you look at the worms when we kind of do this little example, you'll notice that they're a little bit slimy. So that's the mucus that we're talking about. Okay, next slide. Okay, so getting to know the worms. Do you think that you can just dig up some worms from your backyard and use them for composting? Maybe, maybe not. So actually, they are kind of a species of earthworms, but these are kind of different. They're called red wigglers or red worms, or their name is Essenia foetida. And these are actually usually farmed, and they're different than the earthworms. I think there's like 7,000-ish species of earthworms out there, maybe more. But these are kind of a special worm that we use for vermicomposting, and they're at most active between 55 and 85 degrees. So something important is we don't want to keep these worms outside, and you'll probably keep it in your classroom. But let's say the temperature drops, super low, or the temperature gets super high, the worms might not be too happy with that. But that's around the range that the worms like it. All right, next slide. Okay, so why do we want to use red worms? So the goal of vermicomposting is to efficiently recycle the organic material into a valuable resource. And the whole point of this system that's self-contained, so normally, you know, in your natural environment, worms would have somewhere to burrow, they would have somewhere to like kind of have their home. This is their home, and I can show you a little bit. And we'll put a sample. This is their home, so there's like coconut wire in here. It's their home, so we're mimicking their natural environment. So this is self-contained though. We didn't use soil from the outside, although I know some people do. And we'll get some samples later. Maybe you can start passing around these little sample nets. And I think we'll share a couple samples per table. I think we only have 10 here. Okay, and then why do we choose the red wiggler worms? So the red wiggler worms, they're really good eaters. And they eat a wide range of organic material. There's some material that they can and cannot eat. So it's just really important also to know what to feed them. But we like them because they could really eat. I mean, I think a lot of us could really eat, but that's why we like them. They also reproduce well in captivity. They can produce over 4 cocoons per week, each containing 3 babies. So if you have some worms, usually you like to start with around 5 to 1,000 worms depending on your size of your container. But they'll just keep reproducing if you keep them happy. And they can also tolerate human handling. So, you know, we're gonna pass around some worms, like little samples. If you're comfortable with it, yeah, you don't have to like play with them or anything, but they can tolerate a little bit more human handling. Of course, they're photosensitive, which means that they don't like the light, but if, you know, we have them out for just a little bit and we're careful with them, they'll be okay, and we'll give you a little bit of their coconut wire so they can kind of hide if they really want to. So they'll be okay. We've done this like sample a couple times and they're usually okay. They might get stressed a little bit, but they can kind of handle it a little bit more than other species. So we're gonna go ahead and do that little sample right now. Maybe Isabel's gonna help me on this side of the class and I can do this side of the class. You look like you only have 2 Someone's gonna get a good scoop of worms. I'll give you all the
You don't want to? You don't have to, no. No, but oftentimes people seem afraid at first, and then they kind of get more comfortable. Here, this guy wants to hang out with
And
me.
you might notice some little white, they're called springtails, or they could be mice. And then, you know, they're not super bad for them.
Friend. There you go, buddy.
What is the little white one?
Yeah, there's different types of critters that'll be in there doing the same process.
So yeah, take some time to kind of explore it. If you're done with it, you can come back and return it to the bin. Do you need a bigger sample, or you got a little?
He was nervous at
Oh,
first.
you're nervous?
Do you want some more? You guys didn't get it?
Oh no, sorry.
Ooh, I hit the jackpot.
I love it. All right. So, was there anyone who was scared of them that no longer is scared of them? No, everyone? Yeah? Okay, that's good. Yes, so.
Yeah, if you guys wanted to put it in your stories or put it out there.
Yeah, put it in your
You can use your phones for that. I'll flip the sign for you guys.
Hashtag Vermicomposting.
That's right.
Then why are you so
I like the idea.
Does anyone notice that the worm has a little band on there? Like a worm with a little band? No? So if you see your worms having a little band like the one in the picture, that means that they're, they're reproducing and it's called a flagella. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, so over here they have like a bunch of worms now. They probably are a little mad. No, those are different bacteria. These kind of like babies. So they take stuff like paper. That's okay, they'll be fine. Like we said, they're kind of tolerate a little bit more.
Can we get a big one?
You want a big one? Let me see if I can find that for you.
Why am I using my pencil?
They want a big worm.
Because I'm in the dirt all the time.
I don't want to grab one.
You just kind of like, you lift up the soil and then you let it just sort of go onto your finger. Yeah.
Great. Oh god. Okay.
Breaking the barriers.
I don't want to like accidentally get on me.
Do you want me here? I'll lift this up and you can slide them off.
Worms won't bite you. Yeah.
Ribbon's too big. There you go. We're doing it.
Like, where are you holding?
No, it's not bad. We are going to be our pets. Is our new class pets? We're going to get our own thing.
If they're like a huge amount, they could be competing for their food. But if it's not a lot, they won't harm you. They're not gonna harm you. They're kind of like moisture, so they're probably not even making you if they're not in moisture. Alright, so we'll keep exploring a little bit, but a lot of you have questions about what you're seeing. This is kind of a list of the Vermicompost food web. So you may see, you won't see bacteria because it's a microorganism, but some of the things that you could see are peppered cells, mites. I don't think there's any more pill bugs, maybe potworms.
Hey, I'm not using them as weapons. They're our friends.
So keep on looking and maybe you'll see some of these things. So if you're ready to put your worm sample, you can just raise your hand. Yeah, you can still keep looking. Maybe just keep the volume down and just kind of like look around at your sample, but just kind of listen with your ears and look at the worms. So why vermicompost? So vermicompost, or the product of it causes long-term soil fertility, so it's better for plant health and better yield. It's soil structure that makes better use of water and nutrients. And desirable microorganisms thrive in vermicompost vermicompost, reducing incidence of pests or diseases. So these are just some of the reasons. And then I'm going to pass it along, I think, to Isabel, and she's going to talk about, this is really, really important because I'm going to talk about what you can and what you cannot feed these worms. So one thing is having these worms, but you're responsible for feeding things that they could actually eat and things that won't kill them. So it's a big responsibility. It's like having a pet.
Alright, so you're probably wondering what worms eat. In the wild, they eat both organic matter and smaller organisms and nematodes. When they're in the soil, they're technically eating soil, but the soil is kind of the tray that their food is coming from. They're not really absorbing the minerals, they're consuming the microorganisms and processing that into worm castings. But that's in the wild. When you have your contained system, they can eat a wide variety of organic materials. Oh, you can? Yeah, you can change the slide. So in here, they'll eat some microorganisms, but their main food source is the food that you guys are going to add into here. So the yes list includes fruits and vegetable scraps, such as strawberries, apples, bananas. The only thing, some of what we don't recommend putting in here is acidic fruits, such as oranges, any like lemons, limes, grapefruits, onions. Anything too acidic might hurt them. And then you can add coffee grounds and filters, just not too many because that can also turn a bit acidic. You can add eggshells, just give them a quick rinse. Tea bags, as long as they don't have any type of like plastic lining. You can add shredded newspaper and cardboard to balance out the moisture of your bin. They will eat it as well, but it's mostly a bedding source. The no list, you're going to want to stay away from any dairy, any meats, any fats, any oils, and any acidic foods, and grass or plant trimmings as well. So you can go to the next slide. So setting up your worm bins. So 3 layers are needed for the bin. The one that we're going to leave with you is a layered worm bin as well. So the top layer is for bedding, and it's where the worms mainly live. The middle layer is for castings, and if anyone wants to see that, we can lift it up and show. And then the last layer collects like any moisture, and sometimes worms will fall down there, but it's mostly for moisture. And you have to keep them in the shade, in a shaded, cool place. Sometimes they can do well outside, just not in any direct sun. The ideal temperature is 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And next slide. So best practices for maintaining your compost system. So, okay. Sorry. So when you first start adding food to your vermicompost bin, you can add the food in quadrants like shown above. This is gonna allow the worms to like take the time to recognize what you're putting in. They're gonna figure out what they like. You're gonna see what they don't eat and what they do eat. And sectioning it up into quadrants is just gonna make that easier for you to see. And when you prepare your food scraps, it makes it a lot easier if they're chopped up. If you avoid any type of like peels, that's gonna make it a lot easier for them to eat. If possible, you want to shred, crush, or break apart any material you're going to put in the bin. The steps, that's not necessary, but it is recommended. It'll make it easier for them. And you also want to make sure that you bury your food in there for them because they do live below the surface. That's their ideal placement. So putting the food like 3 to 4 inches in is just going to make it easier for them to obtain it. And then typically, it's going to take 3 to 4 months to produce finished vermicompost. You can check it routinely to see if you have any there. Yeah, it's going to take a little bit. And you want to keep it moist. I think the ideal moisture is about 80% moisture. You want to continue to add bedding, covering, or damp newspaper as you see fit, as you see needed. You don't want to overfeed them because that can also harm them. The ideal number of worms is 1,000 worms for this bin, and they'll eat about half to 1 pound of food scraps each day. So they eat half of their weight in food, I believe.
Yeah, like the other stuff.
Yeah, so that's, I think that's all I got. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask or come take a look if you want. I'll pass it back to Dolly.
Will you all be bringing like food scraps from home, or how or you guys haven't decided that yet?
Sometimes they have, extra stuff from lunch or things like that, so.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody have any questions about what they're seeing, or anyone's excited? Yeah.
Why is my hand when I hold the phone, why is it yellow?
Yellow.
And it came from the bed, I think.
It might be their mucus, but that's a good question. I think she thought it peed, but I think it's
That's what they were saying
I think
over
it's
here.
their mucus. Yeah. But yeah. Any other questions? And is anyone feeling excited about doing this, or it seems hard? Yeah. And then again, just a few reminders. Just if you get your lunch and like you don't eat your apples, let's say, or not all your apples, just try to like break it up into smaller pieces. Try to keep orange stuff away from here. No fatty foods, so they won't eat your pizza if you don't finish it. So just finish your pizza. Just things like that. But